So I was too busy
That's
dancing.
a funky tune, Pete.
Yeah, it was free, so I picked that one.
Now, did anyone
happy.
spot the deliberate mistake?
No.
Was it
The
deliberate?
word Saturday?
Oh, was there a mistake?
Yeah.
I didn't even
I
notice.
never noticed. It wasn't deliberate then. It must have been a genuine mistake.
Yeah, it's a slight misspelling on Saturday.
I have an excuse.
Yeah, me too. I'm Dutch.
Well, good evening, and everyone. Welcome to Health Freedom UK, and welcome to this Friday Lovin'. And it is a loving because I sent Jim a message 10 minutes before the show saying, "We're love in 10 minutes."
Live on camera.
So we're going to have a loving session tonight on a Friday night, which is great.
We'll be pulling each other off here.
Cheers, everyone.
Yourself, right?
Cheers, Rob.
You've already got some interest in the chat room. People asking, is this going to be a gay night? I said,
We've got lots of tunes from George Michael coming up because Cookie particularly likes those.
Oh, yeah.
We go by the pronouns they.
They, them, ze.
So we're going to see how this all goes, and if people like it, and maybe if they request it and they think that us bunch of Herberts do all right together, maybe it's something we can do perhaps once a month or something, if it suits everyone. Now that
once a month.
Once a month.
I just think with that time it on. Is that
let's start with once every
once
quarter.
A year.
Quarter? Yeah, maybe.
It's really a full moon, though, isn't it? Who's the moon expert? Is it Cookie?
Me? I'm a what? No.
Who's because it's a hunter's moon on Saturday, isn't it? We've got a full moon.
I looked it up. It looks full. It looks big.
It's gonna be full on Saturday at 9:25 or something like that PM.
Right.
And it's one of those big moons, apparently, just in time for Halloween.
Oh yeah, that would be for the weekend.
Oh yeah, that's on Monday, right?
It's on Tuesday. It's my show.
Oh yeah, sure, in your show. Yeah.
BB's done. He's done a special meme for me, for a Halloween meme for me. I'd like to thank BB for all his memes that he's been producing. He's really taken over from Tony, hasn't he? He's stepped up.
Cool.
He's a bigger cunt, though. That's the worst about BB is he puts you in more compromising positions.
Maybe that's what it's really about.
I think he's channeling Tony.
Yeah, he's only showing you the ones that he's willing to make public. He's probably got a whole folder full of ones.
In the chat that we've got going, he said that he could do so much more. He's got lots of ideas going through his head, so he's probably going to take all of this and screenshot this and do something very, very naughty. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the very ugly.
Very, very ugly. Very, very ugly.
So yeah,
he's saving the worst of them for an appropriate time.
This is a collaboration of Health Freedom, Raconteurs News, Starfish Troopers, and Steve Tagoose, the Mystery Show. So, what did we call it? What was it called?
Starfish Mystery Health
Show.
Starfish Mystery Health Show. I think that's quite good, isn't it?
Catchy.
I couldn't think of any way of fitting raccoons in there because I thought if you put raccoons at the beginning, it sounded like you're talking about a raccoon starfish. But, that might be a bit too much.
I don't know. I have no opinion on raccoons. To be honest, I'm not even sure why it's still running, but it's still going anyway.
Yeah, I think that's because of all the people that were always gathering together for it, wasn't it? So yeah, it is still going, even if Jason isn't here, even if the other guys aren't here, you're still here, and you carrying it on. So I think it's living on. It's become immortal.
I can't believe, though, Cookie, that we haven't had a strike in months, man. It's like, that's weird.
Yeah, careful what you wish for.
Shush, not just when Pete's just had one.
I know. Yeah.
The way YouTube's been recently, some of the weirdness it's been doing, like I mentioned that one the other night, it's sending me a notification about a video that doesn't exist. And it's like, why are you telling me about this shit, man?
So before we go any further, should we say hello to everyone? Shall we? Who's going to do? I think Pete should do the hellos.
Yeah.
Pete,
Hello.
Pete, go on, Pete.
Hello.
Do the hellos.
Hello.
Oh no, I'm not good at hellos. Cookie's really good at hellos.
Hello. Is it me you're looking
Is it
for?
us you're looking
It's your show.
I love the way Cookie says hello, though. He sounds like a paddy, when he says hello. Hello.
Okay, so the first special hello has to go into the first, and that was Mr. James Owen, Jamesy, the ultimate ninja. He was first in the chat tonight. So good evening to James, and good evening to Kitty, and who else have we got here? Let's have a look. Chris as well. And Paula. Paula's finally got back. Welcome back, Paula. We haven't seen you for a while. We all hope you're really doing well. And anyone else that we've missed so far? Rick Hayward. Good evening, Rick. Welcome aboard. And anyone else? Blazing Stars is here as well.
I see our favorite kraut is it? Our sauerkraut eating fucking Irishman is in the chat as well.
Is Dinny here? Here he is.
Dinny's here.
Dinny's here.
Sure.
It's been a while since Raccoons has been on a Friday, hasn't it, Jim?
Well, yeah, thank fuck for that.
And good evening, BB, as well. Thank you very much for your all the work you're doing for making us look like a complete bunch of prats. That's great, lovely. And
one was in right at the start. Of the
Mascara
chat as well.
Snake. Just
Mascara Snake is here as well. Good evening, Mascara.
And Chris.
And good evening to Cookie, to Pete, to Steve, and to Jimmy. There we go.
Hello.
So we're all here. So we've got music tonight. We've got Steve's going to do a live tune. He's going to surprise us with one of his tunes. We've got Mr. Smith as well.
He loves that.
We've got Mr. Smith who's doing a tune, and we've also got one from who is it? Cookie.
Ridiculizer
as well. So we've got 3 tunes tonight as well to play. Because
we've got more as well. We've always got more as well to choose from.
There's always more as well. But
sure.
Anything that that is we're not allowed to play, we'll just have to cut out, won't we? We'll have to edit it out or whatever, or just let's see if we can get away with it.
Yeah, YouTube, but the music is not the problem anymore. It seems, they can strike you or not. They'll ban your broadcast, so you have to edit it out maybe at worst.
Yeah, Pete, explain what's
mostly
happened.
Is in Russia. They
explain
ban everything in
happened.
Russia.
You got a strike this week, and explain the hypocrisy of it.
We had our live show and we play our intro in the beginning of our live show, so that's all right? And so a day later, I uploaded the intro only, so you can enjoy the intro, right? And that one got a strike for misinformation. So that one got removed, but the live broadcast with the intro in it is still there. So yeah, it makes no sense. It's a joke. This whole fucking system is
an oxymoron, isn't it?
It makes no sense.
I don't think it's not supposed to make sense, though, Pete. At the end of the day, I think
that's why I'm not worried about it anymore, Jimmy. I'm not. Wasting
doesn't matter
any
whether
time
you're
worrying about what can I say, what can I play, what can I do.
Yeah,
every week it's something else.
Life. it's like life in a way. Like, you know, they have everybody's heads up their arses worrying about trannies coming to fucking take over the world and stuff like that. And then you're on YouTube, you don't even know what to fucking say. Your head is supposed to be up your goddamn fucking arse, so you're not living in the real world anymore, apparently. Allegedly.
Well, I'm a chicken now. I call myself Steve.
It's probably worse at the moment because of the current conflict going on. Because that particular subject matter, you know, whenever you get to discussing the people who like to live in that region of the world, it causes more triggers and more flags to go off. So combining that with the fact that recently YouTube has been amping up the censorship, I think the algorithm's becoming a bit confused. You know, it's tripping over itself because it's so desperate to go, that and that and all that and that and that and that. So it's just triggering on loads of silly stuff, you know.
Yeah, but it cannot see the same content on the same channel and just ban one and not ban the other. How is it that blind?
Think about it this way: you're not just dealing with one algorithm; you're dealing with multiple algorithms that are in effect in competition with each other. Because YouTube has its own algorithm that's running constantly just for YouTube. Then Google's got other algorithms that are running for other reasons, which will include things like a whitelist and a blacklist of phrases and keywords. And then you've got the outside influences. Because don't forget, countries like the Five Eyes countries, which really should be the Six Eyes countries.
The Six Eyes,
yeah. They will all be running algorithms as well to monitor what is being discussed or posted. So you've got multiple algorithms all working in competition to a degree. Some of them are largely in concordance with what they're looking for, yeah. But there's going to be a convoluted situation of one side is flagging it, the other side is ignoring it and shit like that, you know? So I think we've got to expect that there will be certain amounts of weirdness when it comes to the censorship.
Hey, Kendo.
Hello, Kendo.
I had to laugh one day. I seen the BB was doing one of his sort of like presentations, like public speaking on camera and stuff like that. And he was talking about the Five Eyes. And he says, did you know that Israel is allegedly the sixth eye, he says, right? But in reality, we're really the second eye. It's like America being the first, Israel being number two. He let that slip. I thought that was so fucking funny when I heard it, man.
Oh, we outsource everything to fucking Israel. Their echelon systems.
Do you worry about when you're doing your style of presentation and you're flowing? Do you worry about what you're about being like saying the wrong thing and thinking, oh God, if that could get another strike? Do you worry about that, Steve?
Yeah, well, worry is a different word. Conflict of whether I should just let it happen or not. I lost the first channel really because of retro strikes. You know, it's like I was on holiday and then they did me, I think, 2 strikes from past videos. And suddenly the changed, the AI's updated itself, and they're going through all that backlog, and so I'm also thinking about what have I said over the last 10 years. You know what I mean? All those buzzwords, words. It's absolutely fucking mindfuck, really. To be honest, since I lost my channel, I feel like I've been going a little bit insane trying to work out, like, how can I speak and you know what I mean? How can I? You can't really, because I've got stuff to get off my chest, you know, about all this shit that's going on. I'd like to reel it off now. I instantly blocked myself from saying the V word or the C word or the T word, the B word, the N word.
And how many did you lose? How many subscribers did you lose, Steve?
He lost about 20 letters of the alphabet.
Sorry, what was that, Steve?
200. 1,200.
Wow.
Getting
quite
a little bit of
packet
loss.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is getting it.
I like these channels with like 25,000 subs.
A little bit.
Sorry, mate, carry on, but yeah, your connection.
Yeah, your signal's a bit dodgy, Steve.
Yeah, it's tripping over itself
Okay.
a little bit every so often.
Don't know what's going on. And last time on your show, you were hanging, weren't you, at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird as
funny.
well.
Yeah, I
Jeez.
pulled that cable out with my foot.
Oh.
Put it back in, and OBS
Oh,
just didn't restart.
Oh, I
Okay.
see.
The Illuminati was controlling my foot. You see?
Foot. Yeah.
That's the next stage. They're going to make their way into our brains and take over our feet.
And you know the fact that we're getting to that point where they're trying to take down as many channels. I mean, how do you think there's going to be like? I mean, once they bring this online harms bill, that's really going to shut down free speech, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it might.
I think the
create
biggest
more of a-
danger.
Go on.
Go on.
I think the biggest danger for me is the impression I have myself, the impression that YouTube can give me as a broadcaster. You know, on the one angle, it can give me 1,000 viewers that are all fake, even, or most of them are fake, or I can get 30 viewers and actually have lots more. You know, you can never really know as a broadcaster what's happening. And so it's like, am I gaslighting myself? Are they helping me to gaslight myself? You know, I think that's the biggest danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Because we do what
numbers
we do.
matter that much
we
on
say what we say.
YouTube. Numbers really don't matter that much. I've seen channels with 100,000 subs that get just as much views as we do. So
Is that right, Pete?
it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Exactly,
topic
yeah.
to talk
The
about.
numbers
It's
are manipulated, aren't they?
Oh, sure.
Yep.
The view numbers are fake.
Yeah.
You don't get the clicks. You don't get, they just refuse you that because that's the cheapest way to get you out of the monetization circle. You just don't get enough clicks. You're not popular enough.
James is saying the online harms bill got royal assent today. We are not worthy. It got
EU
royal assent.
bill as well. That looks like it's gonna go through. There's one more vote coming up.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's where they start collecting data on your phone.
Is that right?
Yep. They're gonna install a backdoor on your phone that's gonna check all your photos, text, emails, WhatsApps, everything. And if it detects something suspicious, it sends it off to the mainframe.
To be brilliant.
well, in reality, though, Pete, the backdoor is already installed. And
Well, they're legalizing it now, right?
yeah, well, under the impression that you have to upload an app, but in fact, they don't need the app at all. It's like
No, it's going to be in part of the operating system.
Yeah, it's built.
it's already part of the It's not in the operating system itself. It's actually on the central processing unit, which is like it goes back to the Talpiot program, like you said, where Microsoft moved their operating base of operations over to Israel, for example, and now they've got this what they've built into the new chips that they're the Intel chips and stuff like that is a chip within the chip, so it's kind of taken over all the basic functionalities and it's able to bypass all the rings of security. So you don't even need to hack the phone anymore. So
yeah, but all that's legal. What you're talking about already, secret agencies can do this. Right? They have allowances to spy on you. But now it's the government that is getting the allowance to do this. So
well, they used to have to do it a different way.
Your garbage collector is soon going to be able to fucking access your fucking data as well.
That's one of
the way it used to work. The way it used to work really was like it was illegal for governments to actually spy on their own people. So like what the British used to do was outsource it. Yeah. Outsource it to the Americans, and the Americans, if they wanted to spy on their people, they'd outsource it to the British, for example, and so on and so forth. Remember that? Remember when Angela Merkel, the big when her phone was bugged, and stuff like that, and the big hoo-ha about when it was found that Angela Merkel's phone was hacked, and bugged, But look. you know, I don't think I don't give a fuck really myself personally. It's like they always monitor everything, and they're always way ahead in the technology level. So we just have to up our goddamn games. I know everybody's worried about this online harms bill, but you know what? It's going to force us to clean our goddamn act up. And
well, you have to be realistic about it. You know, there are bad actors out there in the world, so you want to keep an eye on
He's shaking his head.
So,
well, just because I don't agree in the sense of like we have to clean up our game or we have to try hard or anything like. We don't have to do fuck all.
no.
If anything, I think it's going to work the other way round. The people who are already likely to be obedient and use the kind of phrase like, "Oh, I've got nothing to hide, so therefore I've got nothing to fear. They can monitor everything about me. I don't care. I'm not afraid," kind of thing. They're already going along with this kind of shit anyway. I think what's going to happen with this, once they start heavy-handedly implementing this online safety bullshit, more of the public are going to start turning around and saying, well, I don't give a fuck if they tell me I'm not allowed to post it. I want to speak. I need to say what I want to say. So if anything, I think it's going to push more people to basically just give the finger to the system and say, well, if you want to watch me, I'm still going to say it. Yeah, I'm still going to speak out. So I think that's why I'm saying it's sort of like maybe some people will feel they have to be a bit more careful. But if anything, I think it's going to have an opposite effect. It's kind of like if you try and tell off a naughty child, and in the child's mind, it's thinking, oh, well, I've got to be more naughty. You know, I've got to push the boundary even harder. I think that's what's happening amongst the public now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me that what's going to come in because, again, and then I was going to ask everyone a question, this question, which sort of sits in with that, and that is, you know, why do we? What drives us as individuals? And I just want us to go around. You know, if I'll just start it. I mean, for me, why I do this is it is about just trying to get what I believe my knowledge is and what my truth is about health. I mean, you know, you guys that are in this room here, obviously are far more politically aware than what I am. I've worked within the health system. You know, I worked within it for 10 years, and I'm quite enthusiastic as well about natural health and things like that. And for me, the way I saw that I was trodden on within the NHS to keep my mouth shut, right? There was something in my own spirit that said, no, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. No, I'm not going to do this. And in the end, it led to me being kicked out of the NHS, you know, and at first it was like, oh my God, you know, but now I know that everything, again, it's that old cliche, isn't it? Everything happens for a reason, a season, maybe a lifetime or whatever. You know, COVID then happened. I then start discovering Racoon's news and seeing Jimmy and everyone on this crazy channel, and I'm thinking, look at them there. They're all doing what they want. They're saying what they want.
The rabbit hole.
Yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole, and I thought, yeah, I can. You know, I like this. And then one day I got the strength to actually, you know, jump on the channel and start talking as well and being part of the group. And I found that, you know, it was quite exhilarating to be able to you know, to talk to people that didn't think you were from Mars as well, you know, because I mean, I mean, like everyone's got a journey, haven't they? Mine started, as they say, awakening started maybe, you know, when I started questioning 9/11. I think a lot of people are about that, aren't they? But that was for my awakening, and so it's now. It encouraged me to start to you know, to jump on with Jimmy, jump on with Jason, and then Jason said, "Rob, why don't you do a health show and, you know, try and do a little slot on here occasionally?" And then it went from there, and now it's become its own thing now, which is fantastic. It really is. But that was my journey, and for me, it's about just meeting everyone who I feel is on the same wavelength. You know, they talk about energy, but I just do feel that, like, when I'm here and these people, all these crazy people in the chat as well, that make their funny comments. It gives them an opportunity to stop worrying about what the fuck's going on out there, and they can just focus on here. They can listen to whatever we as individuals are talking about, and they can associate with that as well. And that they are getting some sort of relief from that as well, because I always get some relief when I listen to your show, Cookie, Pete, Steve, and
whoever you are.
Whoever you are, it's. But these shows, I think they've got a purpose, and that's the reason why I also wanted to bring all of us together, because it's a way of maybe other people who don't know about these other shows that maybe come to my show or go to Pete's show and Cookie's show, or just go to Steve's, or just go to Jim's show. Because we're going to give this to Jim and to Steve, and they can put it out on their shows, and then they'll discover about maybe what we do and what we're about as well. But what about you, Steve? What was your journey then?
First of all, I'd like to say I like that little quote, the raccoon hole instead of the rabbit hole. That popped up on the screen from Miss Blue. There's a really good quote that I like. It's like, I don't practice what I preach because I'm not the one I'm preaching to. And I really like that, because back to this thing about speaking online and stuff. I'm not going to be confronting the problems that a lot of people have been confronting. We like kids going through school getting transgendered and stuff. I don't have the problem. I'm not a woman, so I don't have the problems a woman have. But I observe from a distance and see dangers in the world and try and go over and say, hey, I think you might fall in the pool, or you might burn yourself. It's like, it's not somebody else's problem. It's my problem, because I'm seeing it. But it doesn't affect me. So I could say, right, okay, somebody else's problem. And there's that fine line for me between, do I contribute to solving other people's problems, or do I keep myself to myself? And when I first started, well, the same as you, Rob, I saw people speaking online, and I thought, that's something I can do. I've always been a gobshite, I've always mouth off, and I can't keep quiet, So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And it wasn't to build a big audience or anything. It was about just to get stuff off my chest. And I thought to myself as well, if I say something, like the Illuminati are evil, and I lasted another week, then the audience would see, oh yeah, Steve could say, oh, the Illuminati are evil, and he's still alive. He hasn't been shot yet. It's like you say, it gives others the courage to say, to break down the boundaries of speech. What we're up against with YouTube is childish censorship in a way. It's like we can use other terminology like cups of tea and, other terminology. We can use buzzwords, keywords. We can get around that quite easily. But I think in a way it's an exploration as well. How do we get through this as broadcasters, as people? How do we get the truth across without having to use alternative media? In essence, we don't need to talk about any of the political issues to actually work properly in ourselves. It's just that obviously people are trying to make sense of the political situation, to find themselves. When you're in a labyrinth of sadness and evil, if you lose your fear, life becomes far easier and better. And I think a lot, like I mentioned on my last show, I think a lot of us have lost a lot of fears over the years through gaining clarity, and it's become more of a joke than a fear. Obviously, it's frustrating because we're trying to reach other people and say, don't fear, look at it properly, look at it differently. I think for me, it's like just to see other people broadcast and to take part in that is a great thing. I was never a good chatter with text. A great respect to people who can put themselves across with words. I think that's a fantastic thing. But for me, it was like it's very easy to turn on a camera, speak, and yeah, it's free. It gives us freedom. That's about it, really. Is my sound better?
Your sound's better. Your picture's frozen.
Yeah, you're
mostly.
freezing. You've got a funny expression on your face there, Steve, but we all love it.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
The audio
Oh,
is
good.
spot on, though. That's
I don't know
that's
what it
the main
is.
thing.
We've got your audio. We've got your audio. Jim,
I
why
could
did you?
reconnect
What
or turn my
about
camera off.
you then, Jim?
What about me?
Why
Why
do
are
you
you a
do
fucker?
Why are you so
That's-
grumpy?
I'm a complicated individual. it's like, to be honest, look, when I got
And
into
how many years have you been doing it, Jim? How many years have you been going on shows?
since 2012, maybe a bit earlier.
Right.
So I originally got into it as a problem-solving sort of exercise because I was involved in a group of Linux users who were trying to figure out how the fuck are we going to do fucking live stream radio and stuff like that, like using Linux systems. Like, so that's how I got into it, like, you know, but it kind of took on a life of its own after a little while. So I ended up sort of like hooking up with various people, like, and doing bits of shows and just coming on, learning how to public speak. I was never very good at it, like, you know, it wasn't something like I'm not a natural at it, like, you know. So and I'm still not a natural speaker, like, but yeah, at the end of the day, I can come on, I can talk shit, like, you know, I can talk about stuff that, like, I'm watching going on in the world, like, and try to frame it in my own terms of reference in a way that might be understandable to other people. But yeah, I found, like, since I found this little I found this little community of lost raccoons, right? Since Jason died, right? And the poor lost souls, man, they needed some fucking idiot like me to come on and fucking keep broadcasting. So I'm going to keep it up, like, you know. At the end of the day, like, I'm still learning. At the end of the day, what I've found is, like, from coming on to the raccoons, is I don't have to tell anybody anything. They know everything I fucking know. They probably know more than I fucking know. But at the end of the day, it's up to me just to keep the lights on so that everybody can come in and sort of like have it. Because most of the time, the bastards are not even listening to me, right? They're too busy taking the piss out of each other, like, and giving each other a hard time. So they're not bothered about me. Like, you know, that's just the way it goes. Like, but like at the end of the day, it's just what it is for me now. It's just providing that little space for people to connect, right? So I know that, like, there's a lot of buzzwords that can get the channel deleted and stuff like that. I try to avoid all that stuff now for the moment until we can find our way. Basically, I have no interest in jabs. I've no interest in all the buzzwords that really sort of like trigger the algorithms, like, because I know it's all bullshit. So it's no problem for me to not be bothered with it. Like, you know, it's like, you know, I could talk about lots of things like eating the bugs and stuff like that, but that's irrelevant stuff. Like, you know, at the end of the day, it's easy to talk about stuff like that. And but to be honest, that's not what I'm interested in. So I do. What I'm doing at the moment is just trying to find interesting stories that are going on in the world, put my own take on it, and probably and hopefully in a way that will sort of like engage the people in the chat a little bit, because I've noticed over the last couple of months is, like, I don't even need to come on with stories, right? Because the people in the chat, like, actually can generate more stories than I could ever imagine.
I've noticed that as well, funny enough.
You noticed that, like, you know. But at the end of the day, that could change at a moment's notice, like, because do you know what? I'm thinking about asking Sean McGee to come on, my old buddy from years ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about asking him to come on and maybe turn it into a full-blown show. Maybe that could happen. Like, you know, Sean would be an interesting character to get involved with. I think everybody would like him and stuff like that. Like, plus he's a really good researcher and stuff like that. So we'll see where the raccoons goes. Like, we still have to get our own channel. We have to get off, like, you know, at the end of the day, I shouldn't really be here. I shouldn't really be on the raccoons, but for some reason, I still have access. Right?
And Jim, you've also still got raconteursnews.com, haven't you?
I have, like, but once the expiry date comes out on Jason's credit for raconteursnews.com and .co.uk, that's it. That's gone as well too. So it'll be up to me whether I decide to revive it, like, you know. So obviously, like, Jason did leave us in a little bit of a conundrum where
Did Jason buy raconteursnews.com then, the URL?
he did, yeah.
Oh, right,
he did.
okay.
Yeah,
thought
and
you
I
got
had
that.
access to it because I was actually building the infrastructure. So, but like it's all up in all up in the air now at the moment. So, but as regards why I come on and do broadcasting and why I bother my arse, it's like because I can, you know. It's like I don't mind coming on. I can usually fucking think of something to fucking say, or I can probably fucking find a load of topics that, you know, each week, right? Each goddamn week, I can come up with about maybe 30 or 40 different topics. I only ever get to talk about one or two of them. And it says, why do I bother with all this shit? Like, I just need one or two. That's it. You know, so I'm learning. I'm trying to learn and try not to become on and not come on and be a boring bastard and shit like that, and try to be interactive and see where it goes. You know, I don't know what I'm doing, Rob. That's what I'm trying to say. I haven't a fucking clue what I'm doing. Right?
It doesn't matter, Jim.
But I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, you keep doing it anyway, and that's what I love about our community. Everyone offers something different, don't they? You know, you've got the music with Steve. You've got, you know, your show, which is a carry on from where Jason left on. You've got mine, which is fairly new. It's only been going now a year, and we've got Pete and Cookie's show. How long's it, Cookie? How long's it been going? Your show, you two doing this?
Just with Pete and myself.
Yeah.
It's probably
and other
been,
Pete. Other Pete
2
as well.
years. Yeah, prior to that, it was with the other Pete as well.
Right.
Which, just so people know, I haven't had any response from him yet. From what we've seen, all the videos are gone off his channel. So I think he may have been suffering that same kind of retrospective censorship shit. So he might have removed all his videos. Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. And you're talking about reality chat there, Cookie, aren't you?
Yes, reality chat, Peter. Yeah.
Which was on a Friday, wasn't it, at 8:00? And I mean, he'd done about 4 shows, hadn't he? 4 or 5 shows.
Yeah, and then it just stopped.
And then he stopped.
And then I noticed first those newer shows disappeared, and now when I went back and looked the other day, every video off his channel's gone now. So I think he probably started getting one after another. So he probably just thought, fuck it, and put them all on private.
Yeah.
You know, just to save the trouble with YouTube. But more than likely, he's on some kind of ban or strike now.
I mean, Cookie, I don't know your background in terms of how you got to that point with Pete and with.
Prior to that, there was more of a group of us.
Right.
There was more people who were getting involved. And it was more of a kind of round table thing where there'd be 4, 5 or more of us all in the room at once.
What year was that? What year did that sort of start?
20. Oh, when did it start? Fucking hell, 2014, 2015.
I seen a channel, Cookie, a really old one, even back before Pete's time, 2014, I think it was.
Wow.
Well, basically, it was when Google first took over. Yeah, partly, yeah. Well, we were all working together as a group then, yeah. But it was mainly because when Google bought out YouTube and they introduced a system called the Google Hangouts, and we very quickly learned that we could connect the Google Hangout to a channel and broadcast it live. So it was like, well, here you go. Here's a free functioning system that allows us to broadcast a group chat to a live audience. So, boom, there you go. Just get on with it. So, yeah, it was about 2014, 2015. Prior to that, both Peter and myself had been working with, we're doing stuff on our own, but we also work with other groups like Resistance Radio, which is going right back to like 2011, 2012. And we were doing podcasts then, you know, it was like once a week podcast. But it became the group chat.
How did you meet Pete then? How did you meet him? Was he in your area?
Online. No. No, he lives somewhere else in the country. We
Right.
only got together via participating in this kind of online stuff, getting to know each other, and then if you're on
Through
about
chat rooms and stuff.
previous Peter, well, what I call Yorkshire Welsh Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we met up in real life and everything.
Yeah.
Lowlands Pete, we haven't actually met in real life, but we've been interacting in this environment for several years, 8 years.
Well, it was close, Cookie. I almost went to that fucking Kip party you went to. Yeah, I'm so happy I was didn't.
What was Kip? Pete? What was Kip?
Huh?
Yeah,
what was Kip?
What
Kip's Clips. I don't know if you know
Kip's
Greg.
Clip. No,
Kip's
don't know.
Clips.
No.
Yeah,
that's kind of where we all kind of met. That's where we all connect through Kip's Clips mostly, because you know the other guys had channels and did their thing, of course, but there we met each other in the chat and we connected, and somehow we started. That's why we met Tony and all the guys, James, all the old guys, all of them.
BB got
Kendo.
banned for trolling in Clip.
Well, Kip.
He wanted to go his own direction, and it wasn't the same direction as the rest of us. So
Yeah, no.
we carried
So
on.
that ended, and then we just continued because we stayed friends. And we started doing the group chats, and Cookie was doing the Soul Excalibur solo first, mostly.
Yeah,
and the reality chat with Pete.
2016.
And what was for you, Pete? Was it? I mean, again, what drives you to want to broadcast and do the sort of shows that you do with Cookie? What is it that?
Well, it's the only reason he lets me out of the basement. So. No, why? I don't know. No, we are friends, and I don't know. We like to talk shit to each other and talk.
It does take
a certain.
It does take some, to put yourself out there, isn't it? It takes something. There's something inside you that makes you want to do it, isn't there?
Not really. I no.
Okay.
No. I don't have that at all, and I'm not here for the million views or the clicks or the virals or whatever. I'm just here for myself and
I didn't think
people in the chat and the friends.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it. But it's not about no.
But
we don't prep anything, like nothing.
Do you not?
The most prep is the intro. Yeah, and that's like 2 hours before the show that I make that thing.
Yeah,
I prep. I do most of my prep in my head.
Yeah. I browse the news and I say, oh, click. That's something I could talk about tonight. Like, okay.
Out of all of us, Cookie, I think you're the one that can just talk for 2 hours without a breath.
I have to breathe.
A cough.
A few coughs here and there.
I always put that down to it's not just the fact that I can blather for whatever. I've been looking at these kind of subjects for near enough my entire life.
Yeah.
Even when I was a little kid, I got interested in things like cryptozoology, as it's called, which is basically just like strange creatures and monsters, that kind of thing. And then I think it was my dad's influence that got me interested in conspiracy theories. But he was coming from the point of view of he enjoyed the kind of cop shows and detective shows, where there was a kind of mystery to be solved.
Yeah.
So he sort of introduced me into that fictional idea of being interested in a mystery, looking for clues, like Agatha Christie kind of stuff. And that just sort of merged for me into, one of the biggest mysteries out there is all the various conspiracies that are happening, of course.
Yeah.
And if you pursue that interest for long enough, you eventually find your way towards the usual big questions, big mysteries,
Yeah.
But I think it's just the fact that I've been looking at stuff for so long. I've looked at so many different subjects. It's all right. If you give me an hour airtime, it's like, I'll fill an hour airtime, no fucking problem. There's so much out there. There's so many things that for the general public, they either are completely ignorant of for conspiracy reasons, because the government's kept the information away from them, or there's a general ignorance through miseducation or misunderstanding. So there's a never-ending supply of subject matter.
Yeah. And on that note, can I just stop us? Because I've noticed the time. It's 10 to 9. Now, Steve is an hour ahead of us. It's 10 to 10 where he is. And he's only allowed to play music live up to his time. So I think we should have the first tune to come from Steve. Is that okay, Steve?
If you want to,
of course, yeah. I hope the sound works all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound all right.
Sound is fine. Yeah.
Sounds fine.
Picture's on as well. Picture works.
Yeah, picture's working again.
Yeah, cool. I've got one in my head.
Cool.
One that I wrote, so it should get past copyright. I've got a bit of echo on as well, just to add a bit of ambience. Hello. Yeah,
I think, Steve, if you stop your camera and then we can listen just to you. How about that?
Then it'll work better. Yeah, that's even better because then.
Yeah, it might work better then.
Yeah, reduce the bandwidth load.
Yeah.
Oh, was in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steve Tagoose.
Watching far too much TV. From the point of no return, we're losing grip on reality. Mainstream media, hypnotizing propaganda program installed into your mind. We got a worldwide lockdown, real life, no sound. Online showdown on a digital battleground. Worldwide lockdown, online showdown, real life ghost town on a digital battleground. Social networks on your mobile phone tell you your location. You feel like you're at home. Government surveillance to minimize the crime. You'll fall in line if you'll be doing time. Worldwide lockdown, online showdown, real life ghost town on a digital battleground. Worldwide lockdown, real life ghost town, online showdown on a digital battleground. Worldwide lockdown, online showdown, real life lockdown. Digital battleground.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steve Tagoose.
Digital battleground. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Whose tune's that, Steve?
I wrote it.
That's Steve's tune. That's his own. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I wrote it. It's like, the analog ghost town and the digital battleground. You know, this idea you got a battleground on the digital side, and then there's people dying out there in the real world. It's crazy, sort of. Yeah.
Anyway. Did you write that in lockdown then?
I wrote it after lockdown, really.
Yeah.
It's quite a recent little tune.
I was hovering over the mute button. I almost joined in, but I thought, no, I don't know exactly how you're going to sing each chorus, so I'll let you do it.
Yeah, I don't know. With you, so nice one. Cheers, everyone in the chat room. Brilliant.
It's a cool song. It's good lyrics.
They could use an applause button thing where everyone can laugh or applause live. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
It would be.
Adding audios to the emoticons in the chat room, yeah. Although I think we'd end up with just tons of fart noises.
You can imagine what this lot would be like.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting just to say because there's people in the chat. I think there's about 16 people in the chat. And is there any questions that people want to ask anyone in particular, or all of us in particular? Is there any question that someone wants to do? So we can always come back to that, can't we?
Yeah, if you do, if you can, please try and put the @ and the name in the chat. So all you have to do is when you start typing, just type the @ symbol, then start typing somebody's name. It will give you a choice of who you're referencing. Select that from the box. Just that way it stands out more in the chat, so we're more likely to see it.
Well, I've got a question from Chris here. He asked it some time ago, and Chris was saying, my question to the panel is, which one of you is most likely a MI5/77 plant?
Why don't you start a betting pool on it, mate? You decide amongst yourselves.
Up with a poll. Yeah.
I don't know if I got it on this hard drive, but years ago, I did a parody song called "Everyone's a Shill." You know that old classic Motown track, "Everyone's a Winner, Babe."
Yeah,
I redid the lyrics for that. Yeah, I changed all the lyrics to be talking about being a shill, and I recorded it. And I don't know if it's on my current channel. It's on my Odyssey channel, I think. If you look for it, "Everyone's a Shill," because I gave up years ago bothering to even worry about that kind of question or accusation, because you show me somebody who can prove that somebody is or is not. From a creator's point of view, it is pretty much literally impossible for you to prove that you are not that kind of thing. Yeah, you try and prove it to anyone in the chat, I guarantee you'll end up on an endless pursuit that can't be answered. Because first they'll ask you for one bit of evidence, then they'll ask you for another bit, then they'll disbelieve whatever you present to them and say that you're making it up or it's fake or whatever. You cannot satisfy the audience's questions in that regard. Yeah. So the best thing to do is just like, well, if you think I am, that's up to you, mate. I know I'm not. Yeah. So I'm just going to carry on doing my thing. So if ever you find a bit of evidence that supposedly, worst thing you've had in your beard, that supposedly proves I am, bring that evidence, show it to everyone, and I can refute it, rebut it, debunk it, whatever, you know. But until that time, I've only ever seen it happen once in the industrial complex that is the truther movement and all that kind of shit. Yeah, I've only ever seen it happen once. One of the American guys who used to do regular podcasts, and somebody discovered some documentation online that connected him to informants. So it made it pretty obvious that, yeah, he was working as a shill for one of the agencies. Yeah.
Really?
But you try and find that kind of proof, you won't.
Yeah, it would be difficult, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So when people ask that kind of question, it's like, well, it's up to you. You know, you decide for yourself, because I guarantee you, if you go out looking for that kind of accusation and information, somebody out there will claim 100%, oh, yeah, he's a shill. I know he is. What proof you got? Have you got any documentation to show him receiving payments or on a contract or anything? You won't find it. So it's all about trust. A lot of this situation, and the reason why most of us have gravitated towards this environment, whether you're a creator or in the audience, it all comes back to trust. Yeah, you have been in an abusive relationship. That abusive relationship is between you as a citizen or as an individual. You know, forget the whole question about legal stuff to do with citizenship.
About legalese. Yeah.
You as a living being have been caught up in an abusive relationship by an institution that we refer to as government or the state, the establishment. You know, it takes many names and has multiple heads, like, you know, the Hydra. But the point is, at some point, you realize that you're being exploited, abused, used, whatever. So you look outside of that relationship And just like happens to anyone that's been in a bad relationship with an abusive partner, the first thing that vanishes is trust. And you then have to start again building your trust in other people, other relationships. And same with this. Yeah, this is just on a larger scale because you're talking about social groupings. But people come to this kind of environment and ask these kind of questions because they've lost trust in what they thought they knew the world was. That's why I've often talked about that concept of the bereavement process, and the world you knew when you were growing up has died. And part of the reason why you feel the way you do and why you've got this kind of need to look for answers or security or confidence is because the world you knew has been killed. The illusion has been destroyed. So now all of a sudden you're in this situation of you need to rebuild trust in groups, in people, in humanity, yeah, as well as institutions and stuff like that. So I know it's a bit of a long circle round.
No, it's a really good.
It's
I like that. But I've just thought of something. We're all abused broadcasters.
Yeah.
Aren't we? We are. Yeah. We're all abused broadcasters.
If you go back in time to prior, I know this is going to sound like a bit of a stretch, but I guarantee you it's not. If anyone's been interested for this long, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you go back to prior 9/11, right, the time period, the 80s and 90s, I started getting more into like the conspiracy stuff in the 90s. In the 80s, I was still more interested in things like the cryptozoology and aliens and stuff like that. Yeah. But back then, a large percentage of the people you'd interact with who had similar interests came from an abused environment.
Yeah.
In one way or another, they'd suffered some kind of trauma in either their childhood or their early adulthood that had led them to have a general distrust of anyone that claims, oh, we're from the government, we're here to help you. You know, that kind of state rhetoric. So a lot of people who had those kind of interests were coming from a situation where they'd experienced some form of abuse or exploitation. Whereas after 9/11, it became a bit more of a kind of like open gate where so many people were coming into these kind of subject matters, and they may not necessarily have had any of that kind of experience in their life. So you had to try and, I mean, it took me years to figure out some of this stuff and be able to communicate it to people to try and explain it. But for a lot of people, they don't really comprehend why they're feeling the way they do, why they have this, like it says in the Matrix, you know, you got a splinter in the back of your mind that you can't scratch. Where's that come from? Why is it there? You know, those kind of questions all come back to the question of trust. Do you trust the establishment that claim they're running this country for your well-being or running the world for your well-being? Yeah, that's where almost all conspiracies come from, is the loss of trust.
Do you feel quite suspicious and untrustful, Steve? Do you feel? I mean, where you are you very suspicious about the way you live your life, and when you broadcast?
I used to be incredibly on edge. There came a certain point where I just thought, I don't feel too. Yeah, I feel more like a shill if I don't say anything. You know. I've got to say something because I feel weird. I only feel natural. It's like there's no performance or anything. It's just like, you know, if I can be on my own playing guitar and talking to myself or whatever. It's not much difference, you know. I'd feel like a shill if I didn't speak. So when I been in Germany, obviously there's this weird idea, you know, that I'm vulnerable. But it sort of turns around in a way. I feel that the people in their own nation are more vulnerable to their own governments, and you're seeing that definitely now.
Yeah,
I've been saying this for a long time before the immigration thing. That I kind of realised that all I have to do is speak English. You know, it's like, oh, you didn't stop at this red light or whatever. Or, I mean, that's a bad example, but you say, I didn't understand. You know, it's like I don't understand the language. So it's like, okay, there's tolerance there. You know, and even talking about a lot of the conspiracy stuff, really, it's I always felt like as long as you don't attack any company directly or any institution or any people directly, you're not going to get into trouble. I think the worst thing you can do is focus on, like, bring a private person into a public domain. It's like called doxing in one sense. You like picking on somebody in a private domain, pulling them into a public domain. You're kind of asking for a fight. Or if you like start talking about Monsanto and a particular drug and talking about how it's dangerous, and then you can be in trouble. But I think if you're attacking the Bilderberger group, the CIA, the MI5, the Queen, any of that, I think it's like
she's dead, Steve.
Are you sure about that?
Well, I almost over the years I've almost think that like maybe it's wanted. It's like somehow I've got this feel. I always had a feeling that we still have free will. We're up to now. I mean, I can't speak for the people of Palestine and the other places in the world where they don't seem to have a great deal of free will, but I can speak for myself and the people around me that over the years people have had the choice, even if it's a hard choice. It might mean them putting their existence or social existence at risk. It's but at the end of the day, people could have still said no. And if everybody had said no in solidarity rather than solidarity with the other side, then it would have been easy, So, but
Jimmy, can I just ask Jimmy a question? Jimmy, do you feel that and this goes out to anyone, but Jim first, do you feel that people are more suspicious now about government since lockdown? Do you think there has been a more general awakening of people that they're a bit more suspicious? Like, I mean, I don't know about you. I've heard a lot of people say, I'm never having the medical intervention ever again. It didn't do me much good. I mean, have you noticed anything like that?
To be honest, I think people have always been suspicious of the government, I can trace this right back to my father's time, right? And when I used to listen to my father years ago, like, he would never use a landline to call England, for example, because, in his own words, they're tapping into the conversation, so he would never make a call to England. So no, I don't think they're any more or less suspicious. I think things are the way they have always been. That's what I think.
Do you think that's also a cultural thing? Because like you're in Ireland, and we know the history, with Ireland and the troubles it's had there, and people have always made, there's always been that very much that obvious divide. So do you think it's just carried on then since then?
I think things are exactly the way they always have been. Everybody's talking, like, if you listen to all the old channels, right, and they're always talking about this grand awakening that everybody's going through. I don't see that. Like, I don't see any of that at all. All I see is like the same people that would have been awake anyway are the ones who are awake, and the rest of them, maybe a couple of them might sort of like have this so-called awakening, but I think the awakening is like a ruse. It's like it's not going to fucking happen. Like, we're always going to have the same amount of NPCs, right? And it'll be proportional to the amount of people on the planet. Like, so sometimes I wonder, like, things are the way they're supposed to be. It's like people are no more or no less suspicious. Like, we would in general have the same proportion of people who would be suspicious of the government, no matter what the population was. And if the planet was sort of like 16 billion people, there would still only be about 10% of the people who would be totally sort of like totally against like any interventions and suspicious of everything that like the hierarchy were doing. Like, you would get that sort of like 20% who would be sort of like on the borderline and not know whether to jump left or right, like the arse over tit character from Viz. Remember when the arse over tit character from Viz would be standing in the middle of the road, the two heads, jump this way, no, jump this way, and the poor little fucker would still get run over by the truck no matter what that way he jumped. And then the rest of the population don't want to know because they're busy with their own fucking shit, right? So I think this whole idea that like people are more suspicious. No, I think the breakdown of the general population, which are so called awake, it's negligible in my opinion now. So
what about Pete then? I mean, do you see? Have you noticed any difference, Pete, where you live? Is there a general more suspicion of government since the lockdown and since the medical intervention? Do you think people are becoming more aware now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's all calculated and planned, so it's not gonna matter.
I mean, is it a big difference between what's happened since 2020, early 2020? Do you think there's more people now that are more suspicious about it?
Well, they went after the farmers as well here, right? Hard.
Of course they did. Yeah,
and I think in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's on multiple levels in the population, right? It's not just the middle class anymore that's being attacked or certain groups. It's everybody now. It's just it's really everybody because the middle class are suffering hard at the moment here in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
they're now paying for the COVID aftermath, basically.
Yeah, through taxes?
Through the taxes, to loans they had to take because they couldn't open their business, or all kinds of reasons.
It's interesting you say that. Also, from my side of view, I do the health thing, but just as a personal thing, tried to get my mum an appointment. She's been in absolute agony with a stomach problem. Tried to get her appointment with the doctors, and what you have to do now, I mean, I don't know what my mum would do. They don't take telephone appointments now, right? Okay, you have to jump online, and I feel so sorry for old people now, right? You have to jump online. You have to go through the process of triaging yourself, right? So you've got to say, oh yeah, my problem's in this area and my pain scale is like this. And yeah, exactly, Pete. And it's been hurting for this long. And I've tried this and I've tried that. And then from that, they triage you and say, right, we'll give you an appointment. My mum's been in pain now for about 4 weeks. She's taken all her antibiotics that the doctor gave her and everything, still in pain. They've now given her an appointment for 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time. All she needs is a referral to an endoscopy. That's all she needs. All I want to say to the doctor is just refer her for an endoscopy, right? Because all we're doing right now is just delaying it. But no, you've got to go through the bloody process of do this, do that, jump through this hoop, and then also piss off your mother at the same time and let her give you some shit because she thinks it's your bloody fault.
Yeah, it's privatization. It's more efficient. It's
and that's as a result of everyone going, lock us down. Yeah, we've got to protect everyone. Yeah, lock us down. It's
that hurts everybody because it doesn't discriminate, right? When you got your cancer, you got your cancer, so you have to go to a doctor, or you break a leg, you have to go to a doctor, and then you find out that whole system is fucking fucked up because of bad planning. Because the word shortage of beds, right? That's what we constantly hear. But there was no shortage of beds. They created that problem. That's a created problem. Right, they scaled down beds. They fired emergency staff and replaced them with fucking AI and Google. So that's what we're dealing with. So we're dealing with a fucked up system that's being raped and plundered by bureaucrats and the like, and whatever is left over. Out of scraps, that is what's keeping the system running, and that's almost nothing. Because if you look at the cost of medicine and the cost of a bed, or 1 night at a hospital is fucking 200-300 quid.
Yep.
Yeah, how make that make sense, right? You can
It
go
does.
to the Hilton.
It looks
You
like
can rent a bed in the Hilton for that money and get better service than the NHS.
it looks
What
like
was
they're
it?
going to allow as many people as possible just to die off as quickly as possible. That's what I think is going on, really.
Sure.
Like,
That's part of the intention, yeah.
yeah.
It's funny you should say
Well-
that, because I was talking about my mum there, right? And there's a news just a couple of days ago. There was an article, and it's Scotland's winter death toll is worse than for more than 30 years now.
Yeah.
Now, what a coincidence is that, eh?
Mhm.
When was
What
the
a-
last? When was the last time you heard them publicly declare the suicide rate?
Yeah, you haven't.
It's been a few years. It was prior to when the COVID really started getting going. But they used to publicly announce that, not on the mainstream news kind of thing on a nightly news, but it was usually out in the media at some point once a year. Yeah, they don't mention it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Look
I-
at the-
What you do, Rob, to get a quick appointment? Yeah, is you take your mother out on the street, not in
Yeah.
their house, out on the
Yeah.
street. Then
Yeah.
you call an ambulance and you let her pick her up, and bring to the hospital.
from the street, yeah.
Yeah,
From
it's
the
not
street,
bad.
not from your home, because then it's a whole different ball game. But
Mm.
when you do it from the street, it's an emergency kind of a thing, and you don't.
I
have to
like
pay,
that. Pete.
extra.
You give me a good idea.
But a
there.
lot of people are doing this right now, I guess.
It's still somewhat of a connected subject, but can I take a step back to some?
Yeah,
of what
please
we were
do.
talking about
Please
before?
do, Cookie. Yeah.
Because I've been talking about the awakening as a thing since prior to 2012. Really, 2012 to me was the doorway. That was the beginning of the process that most people understand as the Great Change or the Great Reset. It was certainly on a global scale. It was the beginning of that return of that energy of change. But I use this image. I made this image years ago when all the anonymous stuff was starting to build up. Yeah, and that was part of the point, because so many people were jumping on the anonymous bandwagon and claiming like, oh, this is the beginning of the Great Awakening. This is the beginning of the revolution, all that kind of shit.
Along with that film, what was it called?
V.
Yeah.
Yeah, V for Vendetta, which
Yeah.
Alan Moore himself even said they've messed up his story. The movie is not the same as the original story. Yeah, the movie works great, but it lent more evidence that the movie was deliberate. The story that they present in the movie was deliberately altered so it suited these kind of activities, these psyops. Because what I wanted to reference in terms of, I know Jimmy's saying he doesn't think there has been an increase in the number of people. So in effect, the awakening isn't really a thing because the number of people is still about the same. I disagree on that. Within my own experience of watching this environment and participating in it, the number of people that are now looking for information, or they're just annoyed because shit has happened to them, like your experience with the NHS. They've had this kind of encounter with an authority or an institution that has made them realize, or has made them question, that the system isn't really working for their benefit. For most people, unfortunately, the truth is that they never bother taking any notice until they feel some personal pain, either financially or physically. Something affects them or their life. But the change in the number of people and the amount of interest shown in certain subjects, I'm sorry, but it has radically changed within the last decade. The number of people now who question authority outright has increased. Yeah. From my own experience of back in the 90s when we were all protesting about whatever bullshit, you wouldn't get that many people interested in the subject matter. Now, if you bring up things like the UN agenda and the globalist agenda and the WEF and the WHO and all the other acronyms we can wear, like, people are like, oh, yeah, I've heard about that. What the fuck's that? They want to know more, or they've already been looking into it for themselves. But the anonymous example to me was trying to explain to people how the establishment is very well practiced at diffusing uprising energy, right? Part of the V for Vendetta thing was to act as a steam valve for people who had that kind of obstinate energy, and they're feeling like, oh, the system's trying to make me do shit. I got to resist. I got to push back. I got to stand up and fight. So the system provides us with avenues that we think are going that direction, but just like a good controlled opposition limited hangout works, it just diffuses your energy and you end up finding yourself back in the system. You're still in the gift shop.
Andrew Bridgen, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same as Nurse Campbell. I was ranting about this before we started. Nurse Campbell. The reason he annoyed me so much over the last few years is because he was playing the rationalization game, which is basically where they take your questions, they take your angst and anxiety and annoyance, and they go, oh, well, maybe there is something to what you're saying, but they lead you through a limited hangout of bureaucratic lag that means by the time you get anywhere near any genuine information, the situation that had initially started you off is long past. It's historical now. Yeah, like they love to do with like Jimmy Savile. Oh, it was historical, so we don't need to investigate it any further. Yeah, that's what's happening now. They prepped the ground for the inquiry so that they could diffuse the question slowly over time, so that by the time you get to any genuine culpability, the people responsible have already moved on. You're not going to get anywhere near them. Yeah. But the reason I was using this example was to reference the way they did the same thing in the 60s with the Laurel Canyon Brigade and all the drug experiments, the MK Ultra, the LSD, the cocaine, the sex parties, whatever the agencies could come up with to either pollute or get some kind of dirt against the people involved, including using false prophets, fake icon Pied Pipers like Timothy Leary and other characters to steer people's energy in a way that will never actually present any threat to the establishment itself. So what we've been witnessing over the last decade, I would argue, certainly since around 2012, when the PSYOPs started to increase in pressure, and when they brought in, like in about 2014, 2015, when Google took over YouTube, that was the next step in them amalgamating their control over the movement of information on the internet in the generally populated areas, what people now refer to as the social media platforms, right? The internet is fucking 10 times bigger than the social media platforms, but for the general public, most of their time and attention on the internet is taken up on those major platforms. So most people have a perception of the internet as being Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and not a lot else. There's an occasional website that they might visit, but other than that, it's things like Amazon, delivery services. Most people don't really comprehend just how vast a space the internet already is.
And those social media sites, Cookie, are deliberate to control people's attention span.
Yes,
as well.
They're meant to act as a vacuum.
They hire the best people to do that.
Yeah.
Why is it?
Flick,
Facebook
10 seconds.
Facebook got fined. Yeah. So this is not a question of conspiracy. There is an absolute proof, if you accept this kind of legal proof kind of stuff. Facebook actually got taken to court and fined for psychologically manipulating their users without their knowledge or consent. Yeah.
Someone's taken them to court recently. I just read a recent story.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they'd been done again. Right?
It's being done again.
Yeah. But my
for
point
manipulation
is
of young people.
That one platform is not a sole example. It's not an example in a vacuum. All of the platforms are doing the same thing. We're all aware of how YouTube will give us recommendations that narrow our experience in a certain direction. Yeah, if you're not careful, before you know it, all you're watching is 2-second video clips about cats. Yeah, that is all deliberate to capture people's attention and keep their time here. Yeah. So, like, the reason I was bringing all this up is, like, I've been an advocate for the concept of the awakening, and I've tried to explain it many times in many different ways. It's not an on-off switch. Yeah, there's often a misperception that people think it's like, oh, once you become awake, you know all the information, you've got all the answers, you know how to fix all the problems in your life. No, it's a process that begins once you start the process. I know that sounds a bit obvious, like a tautology, but whatever. It is in a way. Once you start to question, once your trust is broken in the system, then you will begin a process of questioning. Then it's down to an individual subjective level of, well, how much education have you had? How much knowledge do you have about world events? How curious are you? How capable are you of being honest with yourself, of being able to look at things in your own life and go, I always used to believe that. I used to invest all my time and energy in that, and it turns out that it was just a bullshit sales marketing trick. What the fuck? Can you be honest with yourself like that and say, I got tricked, I got fooled? A big part of the problem, what's going on at the moment, there is an immensely more people now, after the last 3 years, 4 years, that are in a situation where they're so confused by what's happened to them that they are asking questions. Their trust is either being eroded or it's broken. But they've never been in that position before. So unless they've got a cognitive ability to actually apply their thinking in some kind of critical way, they don't know what to do with the experience. This is
they're going to shut down, Cookie. They're going to shut down.
They're going to learn helplessness. Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking that there's going to be no grand awakening, because most of the people who probably will shut down, and because of the fact that, like what you said, and I totally agree with you, the way these little rabbit holes are sort of like designed and organized to sort of like lead people down these sort of like blind alleys down to a stage where it's so far down the road that like you just think, oh, why the fuck do I bother? I'm just going to shut down anyway, right? Yeah. That's why I don't think there's any sort of a grand awakening going on. But anyway, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I think what you're missing is that energy is there. You've even just admitted it in yourself in what you're describing. If there wasn't the rabbit holes for people to get caught up in, to get trapped in, then they'd be still on that surface of the ground expressing that energy. But the system has provided all these rabbit holes. That's why I was referencing Laurel Canyon in the 60s, because that's what they did the same then. What we're experiencing, what we're going through, is the system is expending an immense amount of time and effort to confuse us, to befuddle us, to slow us down, to cause us to fall into that learned helplessness, so that the energy that we are feeling, that awakening energy, is lost and diffused over a period of time. Do you see what I mean? Yeah? Why would they employ an entire sub-agency in the government, the Spy B Advisory Agency, to basically plan out psychological operations against the UK public? Why would they go to that much time and effort if they didn't realize that an increased number of people would go, hang on a minute, what the fuck's this about? They would start questioning. Yeah. So they deliberately spent time and tax resources on employing a bunch of so-called experts to make sure they could psyop us to such a degree that people would be so confused, they just go, oh, the government says I've got to have it, that I'll kill Granny if I don't, so I better just go along and do what they say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they've war gamed this down to a T, Cookie. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And what I think is going to happen by the time the whole plan has been realized, that I think there's going to be so few people. It's going to be too late. They have the war plan down. That's why there's going to be no grand awakening in my mind. Like there may be some sort of like semblance of some type of awakening, but I don't see it being realized.
Think of it this way: when I'm talking about the Great Awakening, I'm not trying to suggest that there is an upswell.
We're going to wake up and walk off a cliff, like lemmings.
But I'm not trying to suggest the kind of thing that's presented in a lot of that cultural media, like the V for Vendetta movie. Yeah, what they want people to misinterpret is that the way to deal with things is to have an uprising, a revolution, a violent rebellion to throw them out of Parliament or to throw them into the street or whatever. That is another diffusing process. Yeah, they've been doing repeatedly over centuries. But what I'm talking about as the Great Awakening energy is people are finally shedding the delusion of the entire state system, the entire concept of external authority over you and yours and your life. It is a complete and utter philosophical fallacy. There is no such thing as external authority over you. But the difference is we need a population that is capable of governing themselves, because you cannot have a loss of the current institutions and infrastructure without most of the population going fucking crazy because they won't know what to do with themselves.
Be a decentralized.
But to come to those conclusions, Cookie, you have to have that awakening kind of sense, right?
Be a decentralized,
where people start thinking
individual.
for themselves again and start seeing through the bullshit, right? And that's the great awakening. It's not a
look at
alien.
I mean, a really good example to try and explain some of that and why I feel it's relevant to this point.
Can you just hold that thought? Go on. Carry on.
Because I've got to get it out before I lose it.
Go on.
The whole modern concept, because it is a fairly recent concept, really, of scientism.
Yeah.
Right. Why is it that people are able to put out that idea in the first place? The reason is more and more people have started to realize that when you get some talking head expert put in front of you who says, look, I got the diploma, look, Harvard, it says I know what I'm talking about, and then they spout a load of utter bullshit, and you're expected to just accept whatever the fuck they've said to you. That is a perfect example of externalized authority, and how from most people now they are realizing that, oh shit, all that stuff is so captured and controlled that I can't believe it anymore. I can't put any trust in what that guy's saying to me because he's talking bollocks.
Yeah, and it's the same with the Russell Brands and the Alex Joneses and all those guys who are out there, you know, voicing your thoughts.
Yes.
At least that's what you think.
What you're told, I suppose.
That's what you think, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's saying the thing. Yeah. Oh, you should watch that Russell Brand video. Listen to what Russell Brand is saying. No. You should think for yourself. Go on YouTube and say it yourself. And that's kind of the point what we are doing here. It's like, you know, you don't need talking heads to tell you what to think. You need to fucking think for yourself. That's
I want to add a little caveat
awakening.
to this, because hopefully people get my point about the externalized authority. But I'm not an atheist. I do think there is something more than our general physical experience that we're told is life. You know, I'm more of a vitalist. I do think there is a spark, there is a separate realm. And in that respect, there are the way to explain it basically is there's only two authorities in your life: yourself and that greater power, whatever you think that greater power is, or what form you think it takes shape. What I'm talking about is the claims by other people that they have authority over you because they wear a special uniform or they've got a little symbol on a badge or a bit of paper. That concept is a complete and utter fallacy, and it's a major part of what has led us into this problem of so many people have been infantilized into just automatically trusting and accepting what some outside authority has told them the way the world is and what they have to do. Yeah, go and get your jab because we tell you to. That loss of trust is an indicator of the fact that there is an energy of awakening. It's just what are people being tricked into doing with that energy? You know?
Yep.
It's not about a violent revolution. It's about realizing that we as a global population have been tricked, sold a lie, put into a delusion, put into a state of infantilism and learned helplessness, not for a few years, not for a decade or two. You're talking multiple centuries. This delusion has been perpetrated on the mass of the population. Sorry, rant done.
No, it's all right, Cookie. Thanks for that. What should we take a tune? Should we take Mr. Smith's tune?
Yeah.
And then what I'll do is I'm just going to read some comments, right? And that'll bring us into the last half an hour for us to just bring it to an end. But let's do Mr. Smith's tune. What's it called again, Pete? I can't remember now.
I don't know. You picked it.
It's called Gambling Man. That's the one I
that's the one.
Cool.
So here's Mr. Smith, who's in the chat. So thanks, Mr. Smith, and Gambling Man.
Gambling man.
If I was a gambling man and I bet on you, would I lose? Would I lose? If I was a running man and I ran a race for you, would I win? Would I win? If I was a righteous man and said my prayers for you, would they come true? Would I lose? If I was a braver man and asked to be with you, what would you choose? Would I lose? Would you ever let me hold you, keep you warm when nights are cold? Would you balance up my scales or be the fish that I have caught? Will you always be alone to live your life upon a shelf, or gamble your hopes on me? If I was a music man and wrote a song for you, would you be moved? Or would I lose? If I had an artist's hands and drew the sun for you, would you choose the moon? Would I lose? If I was a wealthy man and gave it up for you, would I lose? Would I lose? If I was an open man and chose to let you in, would I win? Would I win? Would you ever let me hold you, keep you warm when nights are cold? Would you balance up my scales or be the fish that I have caught? Will you always be alone to live your life upon a shelf, or gamble your hopes? Would you gamble your hopes on me?
Nice.
Very nice. Lots of love for Mr. Smith there.
Who's
Lots
playing
of
it?
love. Loving
Sorry.
that tune. I found that on his, and can we put the link in the chat, or is it in the show notes, Pete? I don't know.
No, I'll drop it in the chat. I mean,
Great, great, lovely. That's a great tune. I mean, I've been on his channel and I found that tune and I really loved it. He said that it was properly snowing when he did the video for that as well. And if I read rightly, he did it all in one take, that tune or something like that. So yeah, I really like that tune. We got one more song as well coming at the end of the show, but I just want to read some comments actually that's coming from people. Some of them are quite funny as well. And James says, no, James, I see a difference. James Owen says, I see a difference, only they don't say it out loud. I don't know what that was a reference to be honest with you. Miss Blue Sky, I think people are more suspicious. I see it on Instagram comments in relation to news headline. But while us truthers work hard, the government are working overtime. Mr. Smith, I recently walked into a hospital on crutches after being hit by a car, and I couldn't get in before I played with an iPad by the front door for 15 minutes. Again, you know, that's typical of what's going on right now. BB Zeitgeist is bollocks, says BB.
You mean the movie or the concept?
And BB also says we live in a magical working ritual. Very good. Yep.
Yeah.
Chris says, no one told me the truth. It just hit me like a brick wall one day.
Yeah. Truth has to be realised. It cannot be given.
Yep. Let's have a look. Any more comments that seemed interesting? Oh, yeah. And BB wanted to know what were our favourite cheeses. I think that was a reference to last night's show, wasn't it? Or your show, Pete? I can't remember.
That was last night's show, and we went down a few little rabbit holes of like where the various types of cheeses, and I think I made a strange comment about where Chinese cheese comes from. So we won't go there though tonight.
Chris,
you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Chris says my phone recognised Tavistock as a word in Russian, but not in English. That's quite interesting.
Type in Tavistock Institute instead of just Tavistock on its own.
And Stewie says, I accept most shit if you give it to me with a French accent.
Oh, like my onions.
I'm a frogs.
I'm a cheese. You like my lovely cheese?
I think that's about it, isn't it? And people are just loving the show, so they're enjoying the show. So
I was going to say, like, is that the only good comments? Were the rest terrible?
No, there's some really good comments there, and so yeah, and we've got one more tune as well, haven't we? Coming up at the end.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time yet, though, because it's not a long tune. So
you've got a good. I was going to ask people, right now, Cookie, you and Pete have spoken about this.
Hang on. First of all, I think the question should all be returned back to you.
Yeah, go on then.
Because you didn't really sort of give your own point of view on some of this stuff we've been talking about, like the awakening and people questioning stuff.
Well, I am seeing it. I am seeing it. I'm definitely seeing more people questioning. I mean, my example, and I've already given it on my show, that when I went away on holiday this year, I was sitting there having breakfast, and then all of a sudden, the owner of the hotel suddenly gives me, a load of bump on where is it? He gave me one of those fake notes that said "keep cash."
The fake pound notes or
the
fake
pound,
dollars.
the fake £20 note. He gave me one of those. He gave me a copy of a magazine, and that was Dale. And I might actually get him on. And he also gave me. Let me have a look here. I've got it here. There we go. He gave me a copy of the old the light. I don't know what people think about the light paper.
You putting on weight, Robert? Are you putting on a bit of weight there, Robert? I think you are.
Jim, are we talking?
Is that woman feeding you too?
If you want to make this show about my weight, we can think about it. I think there is.
I told you I'm a cunt.
I think there is an awakening going on. Yeah, definitely. And I saw it down there, and I saw it when I went to the conference the other day. On Sunday, I went to the Alternative View conference. And it's great to be around like-minded people. And again, I just think that we need to find ways to stay in touch with each other, and that's why I try to organise this as well.
Did you the experience of going to something like the convention, and also the seeming randomness of bumping into someone on a similar wavelength? Do you see why, for some of us, we sort of persevered at just keeping this going? Whatever the subject matter is we're trying to cover or trying to fill up airtime with, it was more about the fact that it's enabling spaces for people to gather together, community spaces that are like a speakeasy environment, so that people have the opportunity to go, hang on, I've been subjected to all this shit from the media today. I need to expunge it, I need to vent it a bit, and I need to try and figure out why it's making me feel confused, afraid, anxious, blah blah blah. Yeah. Do you see what I'm not trying to sort of suggest that there wouldn't be any interest otherwise, but if you're doing this kind of content, you very rapidly see how the people gathering together are all suffering the same kind of questions or problems or issues in their lives or their experience, So there's more people looking for somewhere to go, as it were, even though it's obviously virtual space. And for some people, they are going to actual physical meetups. But my point being, again, is that there wouldn't be that need if there weren't more people in that kind of mental situation. They're looking for answers, or they've got questions that nobody's giving them any good answers for, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and again, you just felt like when you were there, you just didn't feel like you could say anything you want about any subject, and no one's going to look at you as if you are from another planet.
Like you shaved their cat.
Yeah.
I think there's a definitely awakening in Germany. I don't think I would be still talking about these topics if it wasn't. In 2016, I thought to myself, I'm going to start putting my messages in songs. But then Corona came along. A lot of people started listening. But I think my interpretation of awakening is it's like that film Inception. There's like a dream within a dream within a dream. So you kind of awaken to one reality for a while, and then you realize that that's a bit flimsy. And it's like you're changing your perception of the world and recalibrating it. And I asked myself, at what point? It's like I often think about Christmas and Santa Claus, and how you believe in Santa Claus, then you lie about the fact that you believe in it, so you still get the presents, and then you get pissed off because you have to take part and buy presents, and then you realize it's about family, and so you go through totally different perceptions of Christmas, even though we all experience it together at the same time. And so it's like Corona, if I can say that word. It's like
you're
one
fine.
of those
You're
phrases.
Fine. You're fine.
It's like one of those phrases, isn't it? It's one of those Christmas phases. It's like some people realize, oh, Santa doesn't exist. The government is corrupt, or something's not right, and that's a massive realization. But there's still more awakening levels to go. Still more dreams within dreams. And I personally believe the mind works on a dream anyway. I don't think there is a reality out there. I don't think the mind is capable of perceiving or conceiving reality or the universe in its raw form. I think it would implode or explode, or both at the same time. So I think the mind relies on a dream. It just has to be a dream that's very aligned with reality. And then with physical reality. When the dream's aligned with physical reality, then the illusion disappears.
Yeah.
Do you not think, though, Steve, that this grand awakening?
Well, it's like
what I'm going to ask you, Steve, is like, do you not think that this grand awakening is kind of like a setup, and they're allowing people to feel the pain and the hurt of being deceived and fucked up, like as a setup to prepare the ground for something else which is yet to be revealed just yet? And I see this going on, like the way I perceive it is like, now I could be fucking totally wrong here, but I see this as a setup for the rise of the so-called far right. Okay, so what are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, I think like where it all goes, there's like this Chinese model, for example, where loads of people get locked down. We know about the Brave New World model. There's the society, and then the people who live in the wild. I can kind of imagine that scenario. I've got a lot of different ideas about why the world is the way it is, but one thing seems sure to most of us is that it seems to be controlled. What is supposed to be a crisis? Everything's random. We know it's not, and we know that the order of things and the sequence of things and the timing of things is essential, just like it would be in a Hollywood movie. You would as a good director of a movie, you would make sure the scenes are in the right order to build up the emotions. And if it was like Christmas or whatever, different phases of perception, it's definitely taking individuals and humanity at large all in one direction, each at their own pace. It seems to me in my life that I've got a lot to choose within that. So I sort of see it as a playing field. It's like all of the narratives and everything. It's like giving us a playing field rather than letting us deal with real crises and wars and stuff. Create a war that's controllable, and then it's like more useful to humanity. We learn from it more than if it was just us fighting each other and killing. I almost grateful that it's fake and it's all staged, because it could be real. You know what I mean? If it was real. And like, obviously it's difficult to say real and fake because we know people are dying and stuff like that. So it's not like it's fake in that way, but it's staged. I don't know the word. Engineered, staged. Yeah. And most people get angry at that, and I think, well, I get angry at that, but maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing as well. When we imagine a group of people who a great reset, I'm not sure if there is a they or just a trend that people, it's like if you're a good chess player, you're a part of the chess community whether you like it or not. If you want to control the world, you end up being in the World Economic Forum sort of thing. It's the same as us. We're all independent broadcasters, but we could almost look like a team that's like been working together for a long time or something. But it's a totally organic thing. People can say, well, we've been meeting behind the scenes and planning it all. It's totally fucked up and random with us, but it works. It almost seems scripted. So
that kind of reminds me of the comment Mr. Smith said about us all there. He said, I can't help seeing The Edge, Ian Anderson and Willie Nelson on the panel. Ha ha ha. He's like, whoa, Mr.
Well,
Smith,
just to be sure, could you say Sunday, Bloody Sunday, Jimmy?
No, I won't. I'm not going to incriminate myself live on air.
BB had a question. Do the panel think they want to burn the current world down like the phoenix, and it will rise from the ashes again?
Yeah, he's saying, like, did the panel think they, the ubiquitous they, want people to question? Because in a similar way to what Jimmy's suggesting, they want to bring in the idea to people's thinking. So the population becomes acclimatized to a new reality where a lot of them are going to get removed one way or another. Some of the depopulation ideas, that, again, they don't need to happen overnight. These people plan in generational timelines, so they'll happily spend the next generation culling the number of excess people through various subtle methods. Think about how much how many countries now started introducing euthanasia schemes. Like we were talking about earlier, how many countries now have problems with their healthcare system such that elderly people, the average age of death is starting to now come down. In the UK, we got up to something like 82, 83. I think they'll probably soon announce that in the current years, that average age of death is starting to come down. So in other words, people are dying earlier. So in other words, more people are dying.
Do you think we're living in biblical times? Are we living in the apocalyptic times right now?
Yeah.
Is it happening now?
Let's make sure we get definition of terms. Apocalypse does not mean the end of the world.
I know.
Apocalypse means the great revelation. So yes,
but that's what the Bible talks about, right?
Yeah, we could be going through the period of revelation because they are, or maybe it's not them, maybe this is just the way it's playing out. But people are becoming acclimatized to the idea, the concept, and the expectation that there will be some kind of great Armageddon or cataclysm or great war or something's coming that represents the end of the world in one form or another.
That's the narrative I'm seeing as well. Like all
that's
religions.
where
The
I
Jews are
just,
saying it at the moment. Muslims are saying it at the moment, and the Christians.
see,
And
that's
none of
where
them
I,
are upset. None of them are upset about it.
My
None of them.
greatest fear is that Dinny will be introduced as the Messiah.
That would be
he already
terrifying.
That's what he doesn't realise. That's why he's such a miserable cunt. Oh, what do you mean? I've got to be the Messiah. You're going to put me on a cross again, you
I got no time for that. I'm working in this forest.
No, he's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
I've got to say, I do think that is part of the misdirection again. You know, they if you I've tried to describe this before as well, but it gets a bit overly complex because of the sheer scale of what you're talking about. But if you've heard of what's called aversion therapy, where basically you show, if somebody's got a phobia of something, there is a therapy where you can slowly introduce them to this thing until eventually you can help them get past their unexplainable fear, you know, their paralyzing fear that they experience from this thing. In many ways, what the system has been doing for a while now is basically that, but in reference to not one singular thing, but it's more kind of like the acceptance that you are no longer going to be living in a world that you thought you lived in, living a lifestyle that you thought you were leading, having expectations and aspirations of life that you thought you had. You know, it becomes, this is why we end up talking about nihilism so much. Yeah, it becomes very pessimistic and dark, almost like the classic phrase from Sun Tzu, wherever my book is somewhere on the shelf. The best way to win a fight, I'm paraphrasing it a lot, is to defeat your enemy before you even set foot on the battlefield. A lot of what is going on is they want people to shut down and just lie on the floor and wait to die. Similar to what we was talking about earlier, that kind of learned helplessness response. They have a goal in mind that does not require all of us to be there. So they would just want rid of the excess weight that slows them down, yeah, with what they're trying to do, what they're desiring out of the result of life. But for the majority of us, we are now considered excess weight. Why do you think they've done things like introduce the idea of essential workers? There is a very deliberate, subtle psychological weapon in that phrase, yeah? It's not just to do with things like legislation. I mean, it heavily impacts legislation, but it's more about letting you know and getting you acclimatized to, in other words, taking you a step forward in an aversion therapy process to accepting the fact that at some point the system's probably going to turn around to you and go, right, your time's up. Go to the recycling center. You know, they want us to be living in an environment where people accept that as just every day the way the world works. Yeah, that is what happens in a dictatorship. They
want to get rid of us in these new water graves now as well, Cookie.
Yeah, so turn you into fertilizer.
Turn you into fertilizer now. That's it.
Yeah.
But this this mass die-off, was it not already baked in, though, at the end of the day? I've only just recently...
How far back do you go in the conspiracy, though? I know you...
No, I'm not even talking about the conspiracy, though. I'm just looking at the demographics, right?
But why has the birth rate dropped?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why it's dropped, right? And I don't even want to. I don't even want to go down to the conspiracy path, right? But no, because at the end of it,
make your point. Sorry, I'll ask questions afterwards.
Yeah. No, because I've been looking into the demographic issue, Cookie, like for the last few months, like big time. I never realized that the problem was so bad as it was, right? Where we have this sort of like really huge bulge in the ages of people between the age of 40 to 70, right? Now, and on a usual demographic scale, the younger people would have sort of like, if you were to look at a demographic chart, it would be a perfect pyramid. So like you got the older people at the top, and then all the way down to the bottom of the pyramid, then you got the younger people at the bottom. They would have held a huge proportion. They would have been the largest demographic, like, to be able to support what was coming up. But what's happened is that the younger population has shrunk. So now, in most countries, now not all countries now, but like in most, especially the Western countries, there is no longer enough younger people to sort of like support the older people who are going to be coming into retirement and dying off over the next, say, 20 to 30, 40 years, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is, like, these excess debts are kind of interesting in a way, because like these excess debts that we're seeing now are already baked in. This was going to be happening anyway. And what I want to add to this now, and maybe you might have some sort of like useful input on this, Cookie, is that, isn't it curious that the so-called 100% safe and effective treatment, it seems to be affecting the people between 45 and 65, which would be the people which would be coming into retirement in the next 20 years or so, right? And if you were a totally evil sort of capitalist and just think, shit, we don't have enough young people to support all these old cunts coming online, what are we going to do? Should we maybe speed the process up a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, they're going to do that, Jim, and they're also going to collapse the system.
Well, the system is going to collapse anyway because of the demographics. So the system was always going to collapse.
For me, that's deliberate to get rid of the middle income earners.
It's not. It's not deliberate.
Hang on. No, they will. They'll destroy the middle income earners, the people that employ maybe 100 people between 50 or 10. Those people that run their own business, they want to destroy those. They want to destroy their savings, and they want to just then, when everything collapses, buy everything on pennies on the dollar. That's the way I see it. That's just my opinion.
You're using two false narratives or tropes they use, which is the population is getting old, gray, and is dying out. There's a population collapse. That's the Elon Musk thing, right? And there's too little space. There are too many people. 8 billion is too much. We cannot support.
Oh, I didn't say that. People.
I didn't say that. Those are the two tropes that are out there, right? But both of them are false.
Well, I'm not basing my data on Elon Musk.
UK worked fine in the 50s when you had half the population in it.
Yeah.
No, it worked okay, and it will work okay again. But what I'm saying is that, like, our current, and this ties back into what Robert is saying about the collapse of the financial system and stuff like that. This is baked in, whether we like it or not. This is baked in because, like,
it's based on profits. It's based on 10% turnover that they have to. It's based on that idea, and that idea is failing. It's not working anymore. You cannot produce more and more humans to make the cost of producing something cheaper, right? So you create a cheap labor market. That doesn't work anymore in this current state with all the automated systems. We don't need that anymore. So that's the big system change that's happening. So these workers, they will be obsolete.
Yeah, but that was far.
I think that was far-reaching on society. That's a cost on society. Yeah. If they don't work anymore, they don't profit. They don't, put anything into the tax shit anymore. They just take. They didn't put in anymore.
Yeah,
that's the problem. That's what they're looking at. That's why they're getting rid of us.
That's why I know you said baked in. I agree in that respect. It's just I think you're implying that it's something that's happened somewhat recently. That's where I disagree. This has been
industrialization. In terms of industrialization, right?
Yeah, this has been planned since the 60s. And when you were saying about the decline in birth rate and that kind of demographic data,
that's another one. Yeah,
this is why I asked, like, how far are you going back? And I know you're saying you don't want to get into the conspiracy stuff, but inevitably you have to look in that direction, because it would be difficult to find hard copy evidence, paper trail evidence. But what I'm referring to is things like, again, if you go back a decade or two, part of the common conversation in this kind of discussion, people are willing to talk about pretty much any subject, would be the questions about things like family planning and the destruction of the family unit.
Yeah.
Because if you're not aware of what they've been doing in that respect, that's been going on since the 60s at least. Yeah, really, it goes back to the 20s and 30s with the tail end of what used to be openly admitted as the eugenics agenda. Right? Once they realized that the general populace didn't kind of quite like the idea of eugenics because it meant they might get killed off, they rebranded it, they put it into the shadows.
Family planning.
Exactly right. It becomes things like family planning.
Well,
So
I see that all turning on its head, though, Cookie, very quickly.
The demographic decline is in the majority westernized nations. Yeah, there is no demographic decline in India. There's no demographic.
No, actually, India is not unaffected.
It's plateaued. It isn't declining. It's plateaued. There's a bit of a difference.
Has it? Yeah.
Yeah. But my point being is the countries that have suffered the most in that fashion, the countries like the UK and the USA, where they now have a negative birth rate, basically, on that demographic situation, they're the ones that have been subjected to the majority of this kind of agenda-driven activity that has been purposefully about stopping us breeding, stopping us having extended families. They want people to be individuated to the point that you are a single economic unit within your own little box, that they can calculate how much you use, how much you consume, and how much you can produce. And then your value is based on that ratio, that cost-benefit ratio. So if you're consuming more than you produce into the system, you are considered dead wood, excess weight. You will be cold in one way or another. Yeah, this is as well why they've been coming up with systems. And again, this was planned decades ago, of entertainment marketing. Basically, there is now more of an entertainment market in the Western nations than there is productivity in terms of actual commodities, physical items. Because eventually, with automation, we're going to get to the point where there isn't really physical jobs making stuff. So how do we get each economic unit, i.e. each person, to put more into the system than they consume? The only way to do that is to create a whole new marketplace, a whole new economic system that is based on basically us just entertaining each other. We sit here and talk, they put adverts over it. The adverts generate an income, a debt-based instrument that can be extrapolated on in the banking system that they use, fractional reserve banking. So the advert might only generate £1 in profit for the company, but that pound can then become £100 in their
That's
money.
when they got rid of Glass-Steagall, Cookie.
Exactly.
In the early 2000s, and that it went from the domination of 1 to 10 to whatever they wanted, and that was Clinton's fault because he brought that in.
Yeah. So the digital environment will generate enough of an income so that each economic unit participating is producing slightly more than they are consuming. This is also why they have been acclimatizing us to live with less. Why now that pyramid you're referring to, it's not only reference to the demographics in terms of numbers of people, it's also a reference in terms of economic standard of living. So for most of us in the West, we've had a really good middle ground. Yeah, the middle class has been doing quite well for itself over the last few decades. But now that pyramid is it's been inverted.
Inverted,
so now more of the wealth is going to the top. And the only way you achieve that is by shrinking the other two segments, the middle and the bottom. So they've been killing off poor people and creating more people, because to have a billionaire, you've got to have a billion poor people. And there's a lot more billionaires in the world now.
Gentlemen,
So you're not
same way-
disagreeing with me, Dan Cookie, that there is an issue going on with demographics?
Oh yeah, absolutely there is.
Sure.
But I'm only disagreeing that it's not happenstance. It's not completely organic in any way whatsoever. It's majority engineered, and that engineering started decades ago. Man. So yes, it's happening now, like baked in, because they started doing it back in the 50s and 60s. So of course it's happening now. Yeah.
And it's more sinister than you think. They go after the elderly. We call them the elderly, but they are the wise. They are the people with the experience that could tell you. They could warn you. But they gave them dementia first. That's one of the first fucking things they rolled out to fucking ruin our generations.
Pete, I'm actually only concerned really at the moment with why this targeting of the 45 to 65-year-olds, which seems to be as a result of this. So, you know what I'm saying?
You know what you were saying earlier about the 20%, 20 to 30% of people. Right, there is that, the 80-20 rule, where a lot of things operate on an 80 or 20% rule ratio in reality, especially when it comes to people. We tend to divide ourselves in about that proportion. But what you're talking about is the 40-plus-year-olds will have their lifespan reduced. The older ones of that bracket you're talking about will die earlier. So what they're doing is reducing the expected lifespan.
I don't think the older ones will, Cookie. It seems like the older people have been spared because they're
only got to wait one generation. We're not going to live forever. They've only got to wait one generation, and then this next generation coming up won't have as long a lifespan. Yeah. Well, there is that, but it seems to me like they've left the older people alone for some reason, and targeted the 45s to 65s. Yeah, they're just biding their time.
That is the older generation.
Yeah, they know.
No, that's not older.
If you're preoccupied with fucking health problems at that age for the rest of your fucking life, you're not very productive anymore, right?
In the elder bracket, yeah.
So that you're out of the workforce, and you're what? Hospital in, hospital out. What?
Well, yeah, but I would have called this middle age, or
sorry, Jim,
like us,
getting older.
All of us.
Well, you got to face it, right? You're an elder now.
These are such negative bastards, I swear to God.
I don't see this stuff as negative at all. I see it as liberating.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm not overly invested in any of the negative bullshit going around. I'm really not. It's
the best way to be. Right? Don't let them steal your joy of life. That's one of the worst things that happens. Yeah.
No.
Shall we? Can I just ask everyone? Let's just draw this to a conclusion. Do you want to? Do we want to do this again? I asked the chat; they seem to like it. Do we want to do this again in the near future?
No, you're all fuckers.
I know.
I think Cookie didn't speak enough. I think Steve and Pete. I think Steve and Pete.
Well, we could do a morning show. We start in the morning and then we'll finish off at 3 in the night.
We're dominating the conversation, and but yeah, I think we should do this again. Maybe in a month's time or 6 weeks' time. It was a good chat.
Yeah, whenever it's the occasion arises.
Let's do it on.
Exactly.
We can do it on. Yeah, once we just organise it ourselves together, and because like you said, Cookie, the Fridays are free now because there's no that, and that's the night that none of us do the job. But Steve, would you like to do it again?
Absolutely, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
yeah.
Good.
Totally.
I've enjoyed it. I think it's been great. I really have. So should we end with a tune?
Yeah, love it.
We always end with a tune.
Just before we go, Spanish made a reference to something, and I just want to share it with you. Here it is.
I was kind of hoping for a quiz.
Don't tell me he's selling plungers online, is he?
He thinks I look like this bloke.
Quiz.
Look. He thinks I look like this bloke.
Wow.
How dare he? How very dare you? How very dare you?
Are you Breaking Bad or are you just Breaking Wind?
No, Breaking Wind is my job.
I used to have my son's mates all come up to me and say, "Bloody hell, you don't half look like him, don't you?"
Get some work as a lookalike.
Yeah.
It has been said, Cookie. It has been
Well,
said.
I'm convinced that fucking salve number he's got going is just a cover.
Yeah.
All you need to do is leave it in the fridge for a few days so it recrystallizes.
I don't know what you're talking about, Cookie.
Neither do I.
Right, should we all bugger off then? Should we all bugger off?
Pete said there was going to be some questions, wasn't there?
Oh, okay.
Some quiz questions or something.
Yeah, I was hoping for some quiz questions, Robert. Didn't you prepare a quiz?
No, I was sod off. You bloody
come on.
Shut
God dang it.
up.
Okay, then we'll have to play us out with some music.
Play us out with a great tune instead, yeah? Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the show, hit the like button and subscribe, and also subscribe to all the other channels as well. Steve's, Jimmy's, Pete and Cookie's, and we'll probably see you again in a couple of weeks or 6 weeks or so. If we don't, happy Christmas.
Well, we won't be on YouTube next week, but we will be on Rumble and Odyssey. So...
Are you going to go on Rumble and Odyssey?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So Troopers is on Rumble and Odyssey from Monday and Wednesday. I'm back doing a Halloween show that's probably got nothing to do with any ghouls or anything like that on Tuesday. But we'll see anyway. And Jimmy's not on Saturday, but he's back next Saturday, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't rule out a show on Sunday yet, but we'll see. It depends. It depends what happens tomorrow night, man. It's like, you know the way these gigs go. You just don't know what the fuck's going to happen next. So play it by ear.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, play us out, Pete. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us on this Friday night. First one we've ever done. It was great. It was really good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Cheers,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.
Cheerio.
Thanks to Ridiculizer for this tune. Catches.
Cheers.
We stand with the light of love and our dreams, searching for a middle ground in the face of the extremes. Through the hate and the fear, we'll persist and we'll resist, with hope in our hearts as we seek to coexist. And though the peace may now seem shattered to you and torn apart, through the rubble wrecking room we're gonna make a brand new start. It's the hour of peace, give you the flower of peace. Let us not cower from peace, let's build a tower of peace. Let it never cease. Oh, the power of peace. Power of peace is a gentle grace in the heart of every human that might find a place. With unity our souls can find the release in the boundless strength of the power of peace. Power of peace will blow the hate away. In this world of fires I know that love is here to stay. You may think that I'm naive and I guess that that's okay. I'm gonna take a chance on the power of peace and let it lead the way. It's the hour of peace, give you the flower of peace. Let us not cower from peace, let's build a tower of peace. Let it never cease. Oh, the power of peace. It's the hour of peace, give you the flower of peace. Let us not cower from peace, let's build a tower of peace. Let it never cease. Oh, the power of peace.
Are we the baddies?